Well, I think the most important thing is that first and finally, I would say the whole world is talking about the need to consider governance for artificial intelligence, and that's an important development. We see what has been happening in G7 with the Hiroshima process, and now we have a code of conduct adopted as a result of that process. We saw the AI Safety Summit in London, which also highlighted some important benefits, but also risks for artificial intelligence, particularly for certain models. But most importantly, at least for us in Europe, we have the AI Act, which we initiated some years ago. We are now close to completion. And that represents the first piece of legislation that puts the concept of trustworthy AI at the heart of the approach, the model that we want to take in terms of regulating technology, a technology that is so important for our economies, for our societies. And I think it is, in fact, the only way to deal with such a technology, because it needs to be about trust. It needs to be about the confidence that the public will get in interacting with artificial intelligence in their place of work, in the regular interactions that they have with themselves or with the authorities of a state. Well, it's the balance between safeguards and also the ecosystem that you create that promotes innovation. Because the one thing that needs to be understood is that artificial intelligence is a force that could be used for good. It is already powering up a lot of processes in society and economy, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, we see already the risks. Risks that were maybe some years ago theoretical, now they are very real, for discrimination, bias, but also more systemic, more structural risks, and therefore safeguards needs to be put in place. And for us and the European Union, trustworthy AI means the balance between ensuring these safeguards, introducing in hard law these safeguards to make sure that you have the right behavior in the market for those that are developing or deploying artificial intelligence, but at the same time, again, make sure that you don't over-regulate, that you leave space for creativity, you leave space for innovation. And that balance, that is at the very heart of the AI Act, is what we in Europe establish as a model for dealing and promoting trustworthy artificial intelligence. People always talk about the Brussels effect and the simple fact that we would be adopting legislation, it will represent a model. I always say that that is not enough, that you need cooperation and you need also an active dialogue with all other jurisdictions out there that might consider adopting one model or another, that are now considering whether to go down the path of hard rules or whether stay with voluntary commitments. I think regardless of what choices are made by other partners around the globe, we have a duty to cooperate. And as I mentioned earlier, the G7 and other processes that at the global stage that are taking place, these are important fora where we need to discuss. We need to also argue for the benefits that we believe our approach in Europe with legislation can bring, not only for us and our market, but also for the others that might be looking for inspiration and looking for standards that they could use themselves on how to deal with artificial intelligence. And I think that duty of cooperation, that duty of outreach towards the other jurisdictions, something that we have to maintain. We will still have to remain open for dialogue, remain open for exchanging with other, again, jurisdictions or international organizations and fora that might be taking a different approach. But the overall, I think, objective for all has to be convergence and alignment, because that will benefit companies on one hand, who would have it difficult if they will have to work with different standards in different jurisdictions, but also benefit consumers, our societies, whether here in Europe or in the US or in other corners of the world, because I think they also expect, now that they start to become aware of the benefits, but also the risks of artificial intelligence, they need to be reassured that we are working together to bring that system of values and safety and safeguards that guarantees that they can safely live in a world that is powered by artificial intelligence.